today's top boxing news.
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. We're gonna kick it off with the co-main event, the Usyk versus Dubois, Okolie versus Lerena, in what is Lawrence Okolie's third fight as a heavyweight, I think it is?
It was.
Not the most exhilarating fight to watch in terms of aesthetics, but you can hardly berate Lawrence Okolie because he did a lot of what he was supposed to do against a noticeably shorter fighter with a lower center of gravity.
Sturdy.
Strong. And at the start, you noticed that Lawrence Okolie was using his natural gifts, his height, his length, to keep Kevin Lerena out of the pocket, maintaining distance, pushing and probing with the lead hand, bringing the backhand over. He brought over many backhands, many right hands, though few pierced the high guard of Kevin Lerena, who was trying his best to get close to Lawrence. Lawrence touching him downstairs to the body with the right hand. Lawrence was able to land several right hands downstairs on Kevin Lerena, whose midsection was left exposed as a result of that high guard that he was in. But to Kevin's credit, he showed good durability. Never saw him wince, never saw him hurt, woozy, or wobbled at any point in this fight.
It was durable.
For long spells in the fight, it's really just Lawrence Okolie doing most of the work, managing the distance, keeping Kevin at arm's length. As the fight progresses, where it became monotonous, is we were seeing a lot of the same thing from Lawrence. Not a lot of improvisation.
Variety.
He was really trying for the same punches over and over to get the backhand in while bringing it over, but he just couldn't get through the way that he wanted to. He couldn't open up Kevin Lerena.
He gave him a lot of respect, but at the same time, he was right to do that. In terms of X's and O's, you don't want to open up too much on Kevin and get caught with a counter hook.
You don't want to open up too much on Kevin and give him a chance to catch you in between to get close and make this his kind of fight. A couple of times he actually did. A couple of times he actually caught Lawrence Okolie with counter hooks around the side that rattled Lawrence's cage. They were meaty hooks. You could see they were strong. You could see that if Lawrence not careful, Kevin can hurt him. So whilst rating the performance and simultaneously rating the fight, you have to keep that in mind, that while it wasn't very exciting, Lawrence did a lot of what he was supposed to do against a guy like Kevin.
Gotta be careful.
Careful not to get caught, careful not to get knocked down 3 times like Daniel Dubois got knocked down 3 times when he fought that same Kevin Lerena. It was a controlled performance from Lawrence, a mature performance that didn't make for the most exciting fight. As the fight progresses and exhaustion is starting to set in, you could see that Lawrence Okolie, carrying all that added weight as a heavyweight who moved up from cruiser, he was getting slower, he was getting tired.
He's getting hit a little bit more. Kevin Lerena is getting closer and closer.
Sort of losing his shape, but in the end, Lawrence Okolie did enough. He did more than enough to win a decision. The prediction stuck. I did go with Lawrence to win the fight, but I thought that he'd win it by way of knockout. He won a points decision instead. Post-fight via his social media, Kevin Lerena stated, "I got outboxed tonight. It wasn't the fight I expected, just a bad night at the office, no excuses whatsoever. I am gallant in defeat, and full credit to Lawrence Okolie as he was the better man tonight. Massive thanks for all the love and support. It truly means the world to me. Thank you to my sponsors for standing behind me, and thanks to my team for doing battle with me. I'll be back, Kevin."
He acknowledges that he got outboxed.
How did Lawrence do it? It was by keeping him at arm's length for long spells in the fight, not letting the shorter, stumpier, stockier fighter get close enough to do anything or get anything going. Kevin only had small moments of success, far and few, not enough to build on.
Because Lawrence was keeping him at arm's length. For the most part, that's why he won.
A good sport, and what still is a serviceable fighter anywhere in between bridgerweight and heavyweight, lest we forget. Kevin Lerena is the reigning WBC Bridgerweight champion, though if he moved up to heavyweight for this fight, it's because there are no real big money opportunities at Bridgerweight. There are no big names. What is it really worth, and what does it really pay to be a WBC Bridgerweight champion, that fledgling weight class that never really got off the ground?
All the real money's gonna be either at cruiserweight or heavyweight, the more traditional weight classes. So, Kevin moved up, did what he had to do, and he's still a serviceable fighter. There's a reason that Lawrence had to be ever so careful with him. I wouldn't mind a Kevin Lerena versus Richard Torres fight.
Kevin Lerena is still a formidable fighter. In spite of his latest loss yesterday, he's still a good litmus test for a lot of guys coming through. For Richard Torres, for David Adilier, for Frazier Clark.
Good acid test.
Where does Lawrence Okolie go from here? Well, even though he struggled with Kevin a bit, failed to show some variety, you have to remember that a lot of the guys at heavyweight are actually bigger and slower than a Kevin Lerena. A lot of them are actually easier to hit. So where Lawrence didn't look spectacular yesterday, well, he might with somebody else. He might with someone who's not as pocket-sized as Kevin Lerena.
An awkward assignment.
All in all, not a terrible showing in what wasn't a terribly exciting fight, but like I said, Lawrence, for the most part, he did do a lot of what he was supposed to do. Credit to him.
In the main event, we saw Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois do it for the second time, this time for all the marbles for undisputed. And outwardly, Usyk did an even better job on him.
Wrapped him up again, seemingly easier than the first time, though Alexander Usyk asked about it post-fight. He wouldn't call it easy, but that's how it looked. In the build-up of this rematch, you would have heard me say several times here on the channel, during the relay and during many live streams, that rematches are often won by the fighter who can change, the fighter who can adapt, irrespective of what happened the first time out. And that fighter, to me, seemed to be Alexander Usyk. Daniel Dubois, at his very best, is a bruiser, a brawler.
Brawlers don't change much from one fight to the next. They go about fighting a fight the same way, irrespective of who they're fighting.
A lot was made of Daniel Dubois' recent run of form, beating Jarrell Miller, beating Filip Hrgovic, even beating Anthony Joshua, which convinced a lot of people that this time he would beat Usyk.
I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I didn't buy it, but they did.
Some members of the boxing community at large and some content creators, very popular ones, were convinced that the second time out Daniel Dubois would get it right, where to me, he didn't seem to be that terribly different from before.
Well, what's so different about him in terms of X's and O's? I can see that he's feeling very confident. I can see that he's in a good headspace.
He's feeling himself, but in terms of X's and O's, no, I didn't see anything terribly different about Daniel Dubois.
It's a real difference between a not-so-confident bruiser who's the underdog and a confident bruiser.
Not much. He's going to fight the fight the same way. He's going to go for the knockout either way. And Daniel Dubois really went for it yesterday, but he ended up getting knocked out faster.
Faster than the first time.
Because the sooner you try to empty the tank, the sooner the tank is empty. My prediction video, I said that I believe Daniel is going to come out hard and fast at the start. Very confident. Looking for an early finish like he did with Anthony Joshua, except that this is not Anthony Joshua. For some who really can't pinpoint what makes Usyk as effective and as successful as he is, it's nothing obvious like big punching power or just big speed, big physical advantages. It's many, many little things, subtleties.
Often lost on the casual observer. They don't know what to interpret, what to pick up on.
The pace that Alexander Usyk sets for a fight is perhaps the most obvious example of how he gets these guys out of there. He forces you to fight at a pace that you really don't like, a pace that mostly favors him.
Doesn't favor a heavyweight, doesn't favor these slow, cumbersome guys weighing in excess of 230, 240, 250.
Where Usyk comes in at a very lean 221, 225, that you're gonna get tired before he does. When you do, the punches are going to have a little bit more sting on them. You won't take them as well as you did at the start because now you're tired.
Daniel Dubois did try to get off to a fast start, committing to his punches. He did land a couple of good-looking right hands here and there, but because Usyk is in a perpetual state of motion, he's always moving. It's hard to land flush.
Trying to land on the button, but he's moving away from you, moving to the side.
Or ducking under the punches, ducking under the sweeping hooks, moving his feet and getting around you, forcing you to turn.
They're forcing you to chase him and burn energy in the process just to get walked into punches, walked into counters. He's got better cardio than they do, that's obvious. Cardio is a part of it. Range of motion is a part of it. Fluid motion that keeps them working, keeps them guessing, keeps them moving, all the while they're getting tired.
Accuracy.
I don't spend a lot of time talking about amateur accolades or amateur exploits, but the experience in the amateurs is what gives Usyk the muscle memory that he has, that his hooks are tighter, his jabs are shorter, thus harder to counter. The arm isn't out there long enough for you to come back with something. Before you know it, he's out of the way.
Better form.
The difference between a jab from Usyk and somebody else, the difference between a hook from Usyk and somebody else is it's a lot shorter. It's a lot tighter. You saw Daniel coming forward, trying to trade with Usyk, and he's losing the exchanges because in the exchange, Usyk's punches are shorter. They don't have to travel as far a distance. He doesn't load them up.
Doesn't lose half a second doing that like some other fighters.
Because they're not wound up, they don't have to travel as far a distance, and thus they reach the target in a shorter amount of time. Most evident in the final sequence that sent Daniel Dubois to the canvas. Usyk tries for 2 jabs.
They didn't land.
Truth, I don't think he was trying to land them. He shows Daniel Dubois the jab 2 times, then brings the backhand over. That does land. Lands clean. Daniel responds with a backhand of his own, a sweeping right hand of his own that Usyk just steps out of the way of.
Talking about inches here.
Wasn't a big step, it was a small one, keeping him in position to get out of the way of that punch, but then come back with a backhand of his own, a hard left hand of his own, that sent Daniel to the canvas for the second and final time in the 5th round.
He'd been knocked down once already. Caught in the exchange, he got sent to the canvas the first time. Shortly after that, he gets sent to the canvas again. And he was breathing so heavy. He was so tired.
Sounds simple enough that Usyk psychs him out with the lead hand by showing it to him 2 times, distracts him momentarily,
Whacks him with the backhand.
Daniel tries for a backhand of his own, misses, then gets caught with another backhand. And it's all happening in real time. Go back and watch it. It happens so quickly.
That when Usyk is beating these guys, it's not just any one thing like brute force or blistering speed. It's a lot of small things that are happening in real time.
The 2-time undisputed heavyweight champion now.
3-time undisputed overall.
The first time that Daniel Dubois lost to Alexander Usyk, people gave him a hard time over it. Said that he checked out mentally, that he basically quit, and he chose to stay down. In spite of being knocked out sooner and being knocked out faster, I feel like there's a lot less shame in this loss because Daniel did try.
He went out on his shield.
Went out on his shield this time because the sooner you try to empty the tank, the sooner the tank is empty. He was exhausted. It's reached the point to where these heavyweights that Alexander Usyk is beating, there's no shame in losing to Alexander Usyk because who hasn't?
Well, Joseph Parker hasn't. Joseph Parker, the former champion and currently his mandatory challenger via the WBO. What about him?
He hasn't fought Usyk. He hasn't lost to Usyk. He has lost to some other fighters, but he hasn't lost to him. Post-fight, Daniel Dubois, the former champion, stated things didn't go my way. Congratulations to Alexander Usyk, a great champion. Massive thanks to my family, the team, and everyone who supported me. I feel the love. Back to work. I'll rise again. And I actually believe him. I believe Daniel. Because there's no shame in losing to Alexander Usyk, who will go down as a generational great. Not just a great fighter in this era of boxers,
But an ATG.
I don't think it weighs as heavy on Daniel Dubois' mind that he's lost to Alexander Usyk when Anthony Joshua's lost to Alexander Usyk 2 times. Tyson Fury's lost to Alexander Usyk 2 times. Derek Chisora.
You lose to a guy that's this good, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I believe that Daniel can and will come again. And given that most of the money in the heavyweight division is across the pond, in the United Kingdom and other parts of Europe, there are ample opportunities for Daniel to still be in big fights.
He's only 27 years old. That's hardly old for a heavyweight today. I'll go as far as saying that maybe he can become a champion again. Because even though Usyk's undisputed now, he's not going to be around forever. How many more fights does he have left in him? 1 or 2 before the reset button gets hit and those belts are redistributed? Bottom line, Daniel can come again.
I could go for an AJ rematch. AJ's coming off a knockout loss. Now Daniel's coming off a knockout loss. They're both former champions. I could go for that.
What's next for Usyk? Like I said, he doesn't have that long left in the sport of boxing. 1 fight, maybe 2. Joseph Parker was ringside. Joseph Parker approached him post-fight. And if anybody out there deserves an Usyk fight at this point, it is Joseph Parker, given his recent run of form.
What is he on? A 4 or 5 fight winning streak, a lopsided win over Wilder, an upset win over Zhang?
Went over Martin Okolie, who took the fight on short notice after Daniel Dubois withdrew, and he is WBO interim champion. He is Usyk's mandatory challenger, so there is an actual precedent for the fight between them. At this point, the only guy who can say that he deserves a shot at Usyk and a shot at Undisputed is Joseph.
Is he a threat, though?
Is he a threat to Alexander Usyk, who's not getting any younger? He's 38 years old now, where Joseph is comparatively younger, but also experienced.
Doesn't get said enough that even though Joseph is younger than a lot of these guys, he's just as experienced. He's been in there with Andy Ruiz, with Dillian White, with Derek Chisora, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder,
Zhang, and Okolie in between. And yet Joseph is younger than a lot of these guys. He's younger than Usyk, but he's very experienced. With more left to give, is he a threat to Usyk? I'd say...
I'd pick Usyk to beat him. If they fight this year, then Usyk beats him this year.
Now, Joseph's approach to an Usyk fight, I think, would be more layered and different to what you saw from Daniel. What Daniel wanted to do was pretty straightforward. He wanted to overpower Usyk. He wanted to steamroll him.
What would Joseph do differently?
That's up to Joseph and Andy Lee to decide. But the idea that you're just going to go in there and give Usyk the bum's rush... Derek Chisora tried it. Anthony Joshua tried it. Daniel tried it. It didn't work. I want to say that Joseph is a bit more cerebral than a Daniel Dubois. X's and O's, he's a better boxer, more malleable, and as a physical specimen, he's got great durability, respectable power.
I don't see him winning, though.
He doesn't have the same intensity and raw punching power of a Daniel Dubois. Usyk has shown that he can deal with that, even at 38. So if you try to give him the bum's rush, he's gonna do to you what he's done to all these other guys. If you don't do that, and you try to box him,
Forget it.
you ain't winning that way either. Trying to box him, outthink him, or out-hustle him, outpoint him, I just don't see it. If this is a fight that takes place before this year is out, if Usyk fights Joseph this year, he beats Joseph this year. And after that, I wouldn't see much reason for Usyk to stay around. Stay around and do what?
Being honest, I wouldn't be mad if he retired right now. So few boxers in the sport of boxing come and go with unblemished records.
There are so few happy endings in this sport. Usyk is one of the few that can walk away on a high, quit while he's ahead.
Congratulations to him. He did it again. We'll see what he does next.